It's just how many Instagram followers you have. It's how many YouTube subscribers you have. It's how much money you have. Okay, that's all that matters. So given the current state of events, it's very hard for the Western world and really for China to survive for the next 50 years, okay? And I know like, well, China has 1 billion people, so even though, you know, we're only giving birth to 10 million kids a year, we'll still be around for a long, long time, okay? So at this rate, by 2100, China will be at a population of about 600 million. That's still a lot of people, man. Okay. Here's the problem though. Okay. This is South Korea. Okay. South Korea is like the worst case scenario. And for South Korea, this is actually the best case scenario where, okay, given current trends, and let's just pretend that nothing bad happens to South Korea. Well, by the year 2100, you'll have a situation like this where the vast majority of people are over 65 and you have no kids, okay? That is a zombie society where no one works and everyone just, I don't know, walks around the park every day. No one works, so the economy has collapsed. Okay, so look at this trend where we are now in here, okay, where the majority, it's still a working population, which is good, you need that for the economy, but by the time you hit 2040, okay, you've got this huge dependency and a cratering population, okay? You guys see this, where we are? Okay, so we're at 2020, right, okay, all right, so it's still not too bad, but by the time you hit 2040, look at this. Okay, look at this, where you have absolutely no kids, and then you have lots and lots of retirees, okay? And then, by the time you hit 2060, oh my God, right? Your population, your working population has decreased by half, by 50%, all right? So, if things stay the same, if nothing happens, South Korea will be dead in, I don't know, by 2150, okay? Best case scenario. But what we know from history is that societies do not die naturally. Eventually, South Korea will be forced into wars, economic crises. So this trend will just increase. And so if North Korea got past 2080, I'd be very surprised. Okay? I would be surprised by 2040, South Korea were to face collapse as a nation state. Okay? Because you need these people to work, but guess what? You also need them to fight wars. So if North Korea ever threatens South Korea, most of your adult population would be dead. Okay? So South Korea cannot fight a war now. The prospects for South Korea is utterly hopeless. There's nothing South Korea can do about this because South Korea is an extremely materialistic society where the only way to get ahead is by making a lot of money, okay? And if you're a middle-class person in South Korea, it makes no sense for you to have 3 kids. It makes sense for you to have 1 kid and put all your resources into this 1 kid in the hopes that he passes the college examination, gets into a good university, and then gets a good job at Samsung, which is the only company in South Korea, okay? Samsung. Right? So the situation is pretty dire in South Korea. All right. Okay, that's it for today. Any questions, guys, about what we've learned? Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Speaking on the mic, please.
Oh, thanks. So for the last graph that we talked about Israel, and I've noticed that the Saudi Arabia that is also like at have not bad GDP per capita and fertility rate. So, but for Saudi Arabia, maybe I'm wrong. Like stereotypically, that they didn't receive much hate as Israel did. So why did they like at the similar position as Israel?
Okay, that's actually a really good question. Okay, all right. So Saudi Arabia, as you can see from this map, has It's a very wealthy society, and families have about 4 kids on average. All right, so Saudi Arabia, it's actually an outlier. And the reason why is that it gets all its money from oil revenues, okay? So it sells oil around the world. What does it do? It creates a welfare state using this oil. So you're incentivized to have many children as possible because the government will pay for it. Free schooling, free healthcare, free housing, and then a guaranteed job. So it's basically like socialism. It's also a Muslim country, so you have this religious duty, imperative to have as many children as possible. Okay? But the problem with Saudi Arabia is the idea of human capital, where it is not really a modern society in which people are well educated and they're contributing to the economy. Okay? Saudi Arabia just gets all its money from oil, and that's it. It's trying to grow terrorism. It's trying to develop its human capital, but it doesn't really work. Okay, so you're right in that Saudi Arabia, it seems to be doing well, but it's not really. Okay, but also like people will argue about Israel as well. We're like, well, Israel gets all its money from the United States, and it's the American military that supports Israel. That's true to a certain extent, but I would argue that if you actually go to Israel, you will see that it's an open, dynamic society in which you're allowed to ask questions, which you're allowed to criticize the government, in which you are given lots of opportunities for social mobility, okay? So Israel has democracy, it has innovation, okay? It has technology, okay? And Saudi Arabia doesn't have these things. If you want to be a really strong nation, then you need innovation, you need openness, you need technology, okay? It's also really highly educated, right? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so Saudi Arabia, it's really an outlier here, all right? But the problem is what happens if Saudi Arabia runs out of oil, right? Or there's a war in the Middle East, then Saudi Arabia is kind of screwed, all right? All right. But you can also argue, no, well, you know, Saudi Arabia, it has a lot of money and maybe, okay? So game theory doesn't give us the answers. Game theory, it just gives us a guide to ask questions and do research, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah?
I have a question about like when is this data? It's rose about 2009, right? So how about now? Did it change a lot, or like is there anything change?
Okay. Okay, yeah. So you asked about the sourcing of the data, okay? And you're right in that there'll be fluctuation, okay? But but this is 2024, okay? 2024, and this is Israel right here, okay? All right, so if it's red, it's above replacement. All right, and if you just Google Israel population fertility rate, Israel is the only wealthy nation in the world that has an above replacement fertility rate, okay? All right. Okay? Any more questions, guys? All right, great. So I will see you guys next class.